Welcome to We Should Probably Edit This.
But we won't. This is about our life's messy journey. It's unscripted, talks about growth, real laughs.
Sometimes real laughs, sometimes just the chaos, and we think there's a little bit of comedy here.
Yeah, everything.
It's about our 37 years of marriage and our experience. I'm Matthew Greger.
And I'm Nancy Greger, and we're your host of We Should Probably Edit This.
But we won't.
There you go.
And we probably should have edited that. So, here's our next episode.
Yes.
And we're on. Hi.
Hi. Yay, we're on.
All right. This is our next episode.
First, happy Easter. Hope you all had a great day today. But most especially, remember what the day is really all about. It's not the Easter bunny. Okay.
Moving
along.
Yep. And no matter what time you're listening to this, we are recording it on Easter.
Yes.
All right.
That's why it's gonna happen Easter.
So, today's topic's going to kind of be about those things that we didn't think we would say.
All right. So we all know that as you grow and as you get older, there are things that you say, especially when you have children, that come to you and they come out of your mouth and you have this automatic throwback to when you heard it, and it more than likely came from your own parent. But as we continue, right, those become
What
less
was one
and
of
less.
what was one of those things that
I don't remember.
that you thought that your mom came out?
I honestly, I
Was
don't
it the way you acted, the way you talked, the way you sounded, what you said?
Probably all of the above, but I can't give you a specific. All I know is that there were moments in time where you would say something that you never thought you would actually say, but when you said it, you heard it because
Yeah,
it was
and
said to you when you were a kid.
And it probably said, "Oh my God, I sound just like him."
Is my mother in the room?
Yeah. Did my father show up?
Did something happen? I didn't see it. But what I found
Some of those times, those are good things, and sometimes they're like, "Oh my goodness, I never thought I would say that."
yeah, I don't think so. But okay, if you felt that there was some positive feedback or saying that came out that had a positive connotation, okay, but I don't think so. But in any case, so we started talking about those types of things, like things you would have said you never thought you would be saying.
Things that you said that you never thought you'd be saying?
Like phrases that you would never thought about in
Things
the
that didn't
past.
resonate with
Didn't
you?
resonate. It didn't make any. There was no. I mean, the words make sense, but not for you. Like you wouldn't have used that. I know. So for an example, I'll give you a great example. One of the phrases that always comes to mind is honor the struggle. And that's not necessarily something I could have said to you when I was in my 20s or even in my 30s would have come out. Honor the struggle.
Did you even know what that? Didn't even know at that time what that was.
Yeah, you wouldn't have like what's the struggle? Sometimes you might have correlated more with God only gives you as much as you can handle. But
sometimes you're just frustrated with the struggle.
Yeah.
It's just like.
But there's no word about honoring the struggle. And I think when I look about that phrase now,
What does it mean?
for me, it means that life's going to be filled with lots of things that are going to come at your way, from family to work to whatever. And you're going to also want to be able to figure out how you're going to continue to move in a forward direction. And it's going to be a struggle. So honor it because it is what it is. And eventually it's going to make you better. But you have to really, that word honoring the struggle kind of gives that ability to say, it's okay. We all struggle. So don't walk away from it because there's something there. There's a value there.
Okay.
What do you
So honor it even though you're going through it, you know that you got to get through it to get to the next level
to
and
get
move
to
forward
move forward, to
right,
move to the
right,
next area.
right.
So what's one that you kind of reflect back on now?
It's more or less about your setbacks or your setups, because a lot of times you get really frustrated because you're trying to make strides and move forward, and then something happens and you feel like, oh my gosh, why again, or why now, or what is it? And a lot of times that setback actually helps you reframe where you're going or what you should be doing, or maybe what you were trying to go after wasn't meant for you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that setback at that time gives you that opportunity to reframe what it is, so
Perfect example might be you went for a job interview, and you really, really were hoping to get that job, and you didn't.
yeah, you thought the interview went
You
great,
thought, yeah,
that was,
great, I knocked it out of the ballpark, or whatever the case might be, and all of a sudden you don't.
yeah,
And so you kind of sit back and you say to yourself, that's a setback, right? Because you anticipated it, you really felt strongly about it, but it didn't work out your way. Sometimes we don't see the reason right away. We're just in the mix right then and there. You're in that messy middle, if you will, and so you don't see that until something else comes along, and
and
then you
you
see
really, it
that.
really gets you down though.
It does. It can
When
make
that
it
when that
can make you.
setback's there, and sometimes you don't realize that even a year later or something, that whatever that was that you thought was supposed to be there, you really found out later that, wow, I'm glad I didn't
You didn't do
continue
it.
with what
Yeah.
that
You
was.
didn't
Right.
move forward with that.
Yeah.
There was a reason. You don't always see the reason. You don't always can put words to that reason, but there's a reason, right?
Right.
There's always a
Right.
reason. So one that I look at now is bring the joy. And it's a great phrase. It really truly is. Bring the joy. I mean, there are many opportunities that we could go through life just existing, right?
Well,
Not really
I
doing
think that
anything.
really I can go back to even today being Easter, and about bringing the joy through 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 what's happened. I mean, Easter is a joyous time, but you've got to bring it in
Yeah.
there. You can't just expect.
Hope that it's going to come to you.
Right.
You have to be in control of what that is
Now
in that
that's a tough.
motion
That's like a daily one that you got to do,
all
because
day.
when you
Yes.
got to get up and go to work, that if you're gonna have a good day at work, you got to bring that joy, because you can't expect that work to give you the joy.
Nope.
You've got to be the one that brings it. Maybe you inspire somebody else in the office. Maybe you just gotta
I
gotta
think
bring
it.
that
I think
joy.
it's a sense of when you walk into a room. If you walk into a room feeling very like in a joyful place, people see that and they react accordingly. It's very hard for people to get down if they see that you're more happier, or you're more content, or you're there to bring the joy. And I like that saying. I really do, because I think it's a
So
great saying.
could you do it more?
You can always do it more. You can. There's no harm to not. There's no like set rule.
Sometimes I forget. I really
Sometimes you
do.
forget. That's always because you're in the middle, right? You're in the mix, or you're in traffic, or
Or
or you're just like, man, that morning just didn't turn out as fast as you wanted to, and so you're just more like the drudgery to it all. So bringing the joy is really, really hard
well,
to do
you gotta
sometimes, but
reach in and do that and
find
bring
it.
it in there.
You have to find it, reach in.
Yeah.
What's another one you could think of that we would have not used, especially when we first got married? I don't think we would have used these.
I'm drawing a blank at the
Yeah,
moment, so
I'll come.
help me
Another
out.
one was, what would my what would my better self
Oh,
do?
okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, you've got to position that one when you're in that moment that you know you should react differently. You got to reach inside and say, okay, what how would my better self respond?
Right.
Whether it's an email, whether it's a confrontation with what you're in, and it's just like you really want to you want to react right then and there.
You
You
want to say what you want to say and not really have think about the consequences. That's probably for me a really big a challenge
and why is that?
because
Because you
I
just want to get it
just
out right then and there,
yeah,
right?
I'm just more vocal that way. Like if I'm annoyed, you're gonna know I'm annoyed. If I get upset, you're gonna know I'm upset. So it's hard for me to set that back and reframe it after something that's been, because I'm very reactive. I'm not necessarily someone that contemplates a situation. I'm more like as my older son would describe when I was describing, mom's always ready for a rumble. And that's because I'm very reactive. I'm not somebody who's going to sit back and think about the
Unlike
situation.
unlike me, who will overthink everything.
But that's the good part about it, right? Because if I do get in that rumble, you're the guy who's gonna say, "Hey," and slowly tug at me to come back over to another
Yeah, but if I
side.
if I say, what would your better self
Then
do?
I stop I
It
think
depends on the moment. You may just get annoyed with me for saying
sometimes,
that.
but I realize what it is, and it's something that people that are close to you would probably know it more, right? Being your better self because they know you. You know me. You know that I'm going to react and react quickly to a situation. So the tendencies are is if we're in the same room and you know that, you have that ability to either tug or just look at me and say, "What would the better self do?" And you whisper it. You don't say it out loud.
And I think along that line, one of the other ones that I like too is summon your best, summon the best of who you are. And I think that's something that is in line with that. What would your better self do? But you really every day, you got to summon the best of who you are, and you got to bring that to what you're doing, because to me that's so critical. Because a lot of times, just like when you think about what would my better self do in that situation, you want to summon the best of who you are, because that's how you're going to move forward
That's how you
to
go
where you want to be.
to where you want to be
Right.
exactly, and or how you want to handle a situation. So there's what are the ones that we and I would say to you that this has been an evolution for the two of us, and as much as that we've been doing a lot of personal growth work for ourselves in looking at re-looking at things in a different way. And that's just something that I would say to you within the last, 4 or 5 years, it's really been one of the things that we've been doing more and more about is more reflection, more about you and what it is that you need to do.
Right.
And looking at what your life has been composed of up until that point. So for us, it's that personal growth has been, for me anyway, very eye opening in a lot of different things that I kind of look into. We talked about it one of our episodes, like what our strengths are, and that's probably something that I would have said to you early on. We never really would have done.
So let me ask you a question. So we're going to Black Rock Church now. If you hadn't have gone through your personal growth journey and we went to that church, do you think you would have had the same experience? Do you think it took do you think it took that time to
The personal growth to get back into an alignment
with who you want to be and who
with
you are?
no, because I think like everybody else, there's always something inside you that's always yearning, that's always looking, that's always wanting to improve upon.
Okay.
And I think finding a church base that you and I would both feel comfortable in, I think that's a journey that we took, because
Right.
it's not that we never did it and suddenly we found Jesus Christ. No.
No.
We were always faith believers. It's not that we weren't. It was finding a community that we both felt
Well,
this is where we
I
wanted
think
to
the
be.
community that we have with Growth Day has helped that shape what kind of community we want. You know,
That for me is a little bit different than going to Black Rock Church. I
okay.
don't look at that as being the same, because to me, being reconnected in a community of fellow believers, all striving for the same belief, all looking at the same belief, is not the same as what we do when we go to Ultra, because Ultra comes from all types of denominations, all types of people,
Right.
and their faith bases are what they are. Whether they believe in God or Jesus Christ or whomever, Muhammad, whatever, whoever, is not the same. Going to church for us has been an area that we had to figure out. How do we build on this? Where we want this community, we want to be a part of that type of community, because we've always been believers. It's not that
Right.
we weren't. So for me, that's I would have found it regardless of doing this,
Okay.
you know. But it's good that we have, because I think that gives us a whole. I think it starts to fill some holes
Yeah.
that
And I
we.
think it's important to explore what those are when you
Mm-hmm.
feel that space, that void,
Mm-hmm.
what's empty inside of you, maybe where you're feeling that you're missing something, you need to figure out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that
You do, and sometimes you don't know it right away, mainly because of the way life is, where you're at in life. You know, like when the kids were younger and we were dealing with the whole raising of children, it was hard. It was very, very hard. And we attempted to find communities, faithful communities that we wanted to bring the kids to. But I honestly believe that you either find it two ways. Either you find it as an adult because you realize it's something that's missing. Or if you did have a strong faith when you were kids, that your parents were just as strong in that faith as they are now. And I so kind of look at my own children, and I got to realize I did the best we could,
right.
and giving them the information about, you know, God, and what spirituality is all about, and what's Easter about, and what's Christmas about. You know, it's not about Santa, it's not about the Easter bunny. Like, what are the meanings behind it? And that's what we tried to do. But I think as we got older, everybody's going to follow their own path and figure that out.
Right.
And maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Yep. So do you have another saying
I don't know.
that maybe you wouldn't say now, that or that you say now
Oh,
that you
that's
wouldn't have
it.
said before? So how about legacy? Legacy, it's not something you necessarily leave behind for someone, but what you leave inside them. I think it's, we talk about our financial freedom and wanting to leave something with the kids, but I think something that's really just as important is those experiences you have, that so that you're leaving memories with them, and that's part of your legacy
And
as
doing
well.
this podcast is probably going to be a big part of our legacy. Obviously, when our grandchildren get older and we're no longer around, it'd be a great tool for them to be able to connect or learn a little bit more about their Jima and Jipa.
Yeah.
Because that's the funny part about it, a legacy. You know, when you really start thinking about you really start thinking about it, you're like, the clock might be ticking. Um, how much time you have left, nobody knows, right? We don't know. We could be gone tomorrow. And so we're having to really, you start thinking about that when you get older. I don't think if you had asked me when I was in my 20s what I thought my legacy was going to be, I would not have had any. I would have looked at you and said, "What do you mean legacy? I'm only 20 years old."
Right. Right.
So I think that's
Okay, so it's your turn. Anything else on your list?
no, you can jump in. I didn't
Okay.
realize we had a list, but these are just off the top
Well,
of
I mean, I
items. What's
mean,
on your head?
I know we've been talking lists today again.
Yeah, man, it's a list.
I know it's just it's part of
Who he is.
yeah, part of who I am.
A
Okay.
learner and achiever.
Okay.
Top two. Just saying.
Okay. So I guess one that comes to my mind is it's the moments that matter. Because we're in that moment, or if you when you're in that moment, you've got to realize that you got to take time to appreciate what moment you're in at that time. And I think that's really hard when you're raising kids because you just want that moment to be over sometimes.
Well, you're in the messy middle.
Yeah, and it's like, but you look back, and it's hard to remember some of those moments. You don't take them and soak them in. That's there.
You don't appreciate them. Well, that's also one reason you take photos too, right? It'll help you stimulate your memory on those occasions when you did something with your kids and with your family. Those moments that you did, it wasn't always the bad things. There were lots of good things that was in there. I think one of the other ones that that always comes to mind is the one more, just one more. It's that ability to understand that you can always continue to push and you can always continue to keep pushing. Just one more, just one more. And that's really hard sometimes because you just want to say, I'm done, I'm finished, I'm timing
Yeah, that
out.
came from Ed Milet.
Yeah, that came from
He had a
that
book
one more,
called One More,
just one more.
and just like you never know you're that close. So maybe you've already gone through, going back to the job interviews, you've gone through many, you've almost got them, you were set, then another setback happened, but it's just that one more, and you finally get it.
Until because you just always got to keep yourself trying to move in a forward motion because there's lots of things like we talked back. Your setbacks are your setups, and that's
Rejection is God's redirection.
correct. Rejection is God's redirection. That's always been a good one because it's very hard for you. You get rejected and you feel so it's like a personal hit. And it's hard to get over those rejection moments. And so you have to just say, okay, there's a reason beyond what I can see. And you have to let it go into that realm. There's a reason why. I may not understand it, but I got to let it go. And I've got to be able to continue to move forward.
That's
Not
that's
saying it's
that's
easy.
definitely easier said than done.
I didn't say it was easy.
Especially when that rejection happens, you want to sulk.
Yeah, you do. You
know.
want to be in there. And I'm not saying that that's not sometimes
You
something,
can have
but you don't want to
a pity
be.
party, but you don't need to have a 3 week pity party.
Yeah, you got to be able to say it happened, sulk a little bit on it, and then
Move on.
move
It's time
on.
to
Get up the next day and just say, okay,
dig deep and figure out how you're going to bring the joy after that one.
yeah.
That's
digging
when you know.
deep. That's when you know you really are. You've conquered it, and I'm not saying we've conquered anything, right? It's a work in progress, and I think that's important to everybody to understand that life is a work in progress. That if you live long enough, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. The objective is to how do you manage those ups and downs and riding the waves as best as you can. Because it's got to be a challenge no matter what we do. There's always a challenge. We still challenge now.
Yep. We are a challenge. The two of us. I know I know I'm a challenge for her.
When I've just had enough.
Yep. And I can usually tell. I just sometimes I need to figure out how to reframe it, or redirect. I'm, sometimes it's a rejection, and it hurts. And I
Yes,
gotta I
it
gotta
does.
redirect what I'm doing.
Yes. After, you've spent 8 hours or whatever figuring something out and you show it, and I'm like, okay, but what if we did it this way?
Yeah. It's a blow, I tell you.
But
But
the flip side is just as true, because I'd be like, no, let's just go. No, let's just do it. No, let's just go. And he'd be like, no. And then I would be annoyed. Like, I think this is great. Let's just do it. And so it works both ways.
yeah, but I
It has
I, I know I have to summon the best of who I am when those times come, and she rejects, and she gives me the rejection. It's not
Yeah.
always God's redirection. Sometimes it's Nancy's redirection.
Or sometimes it's just your frame of mind. You know how you want to live in those moments? And I would say to you, what are you doing? You're not paying attention, or you need to be focused, or you
Yeah.
need to see what's going on right here, right now, because this is it. Um,
Sometimes I just can't see it.
no, I understand. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But I think for us, it's for me, anyways. Let me say, rephrase. For me, it's knowing what's important and knowing that if it's important, I'm going to do it. And whether that means I'm going down to Florida to see my grandchildren because I miss them desperately. I miss the craziness, the chaoticness, the smelly stinkiness, the colds. I miss all of that. I miss when I'm not
The cold.
around.
I mean, the colds
Yeah,
that
when they
they
get
have. Oh,
sick,
well,
runny
I don't miss
noses.
that. Sorry.
The runny noses, that kind of stuff. Those the time goes by so
Yeah,
fast.
that's definitely living in the moment.
That is
You know,
definitely
and
living
you've
in the
got
moment.
to appreciate the moment
I think
that's
that's
there
what my grandchildren have taught me,
to be in
is
that moment.
to be in that moment,
Yeah, because our kids didn't
because
teach us that because we weren't in the moment
we
when
were
you're in the
in it
kids.
with
Yeah,
them. You
yeah. So
can't be in
so
the
that's the
moment when
difference. I
you're in
think
it.
that's the difference with being grandparents and having grandchildren and kids is that you can appreciate the moment more better than
You
when you
do
were in that messy middle
when you
because
were there.
we're not in that messy middle.
No,
We're just there
we
to
go for 4 days.
we're just there to enjoy the moment.
We're
We're
there
to
to
enjoy the moment.
to enjoy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We enjoy the chaos, right? There's so much going on. There's so much activity. There's lots of things
but only for
happening.
4 days.
4 days.
Then we're out.
And then we're like, okay, we got to go now, but we love you, but we
Yep.
got to go. But you can be present for that short period of time and be
Yeah.
right there
Yeah.
and appreciate what it is.
And I thought I'd like to have more of those moments with my own children too.
Yeah, that's really hard because they're just adults and they're in that adult phase and they're all going through their own situations. It's really hard to
Yeah,
have
but you do
moments.
have them. They're fewer and
They're
farther
few and
between.
far between. They
But
are few and far between.
you have to be intentional about the moments with them,
Yeah.
and finding those times that it takes, whether it's a conversation, or whether you get to go out to dinner with them, or you go on a car ride, or you meet up with them at some time, or you're on a call with them. It's taking that moment in to listen to them, to hear what's happening in their life, and just to say, and
You
to
have to be intentional.
yeah, and
And
you can't put yourself into what they're about.
no.
You have to just listen, and that's been a real hard thing for me not to interject, and just let it be what it is. Let them tell you about it without any judgment, without any, thoughts in your head about what you think about it.
Well,
And
that's
that's,
hard because when they were little, you're a parent, right? And as a parent, it's sometimes really tricky on being able to allow them to experience certain things, but not do parenting things. And sometimes that can come across as being judgmental. Um, you don't want it to be that way, but that's sometimes how it is. So when your kids grow up, I think that's how they look at it. Like, I'm not going to tell mom or dad this because they're going to be
they don't want to
judgmental.
hear about it.
Listen,
Yeah, they don't
I'm
want
in
to
my
hear from us.
60s, and I will still tell you there are certain things I just don't tell my mom. because it's not going to help our relationship move forward. One.
Right.
Number two, her opinion or her ideas on it is not something that I share. I know what they are. I appreciate who she is for it, but it's not a topic of conversation. Like I gotta bypass that topic because she was raised one way. I
And
looked at
that's
things
hard to do.
differently.
Sometimes you get caught in that. You get pulled back in. I
You
guess
don't
is
want to
the
get pulled back in.
no, and most likely maybe our kids think the same about
Same thing.
us.
Yeah.
You know about and they don't. And sometimes I don't want to know
That'd be
either.
true. Don't tell me.
Whether it's our parents or our children. I just don't want to know.
Yeah, you kind of just want to go along with it because knowing then as that extra burden on you that you
Yeah,
kind of
and
just like sitting back saying,
sometimes it adds a extra anxiety that you don't need or
yeah,
extra things to think about.
that you're not prepared for, or you know it's just not something you want to do at that moment. So yeah, I just think everybody has their moments, and I think
Yeah. So start when you say these things, when something comes out, think about where it came from. Think about how you evolved and what you say now, what you think, what you're believing at the time, and see if along the journey it changes
yeah,
as you go forward.
as you
So
move forward.
so on that note, we should probably edit this.
But we won't.
So until next time,
Have a great one.
make sure to like us,
Bring the joy.
bring the joy, share this episode with someone that you know needs the joy.
Bye.
Bye.